There's few things better this season to help you get right than a ball game against the Panthers. The Chiefs are getting ready for it. Let's go on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Happy Red Friday. We're brought to you today by Game Time. They made life simple. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Super simple at Game Time. We have a fun one for you. The Chiefs have a lot to get done, and we're going to get after it. X factors that can affect the outcome of this game and our predictions coming up later in the show. What are the must-win matchups? That's coming up in the next bit, but we start off right now. And no offense to what the Panthers are, this game's about the Chiefs. This is Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Roic Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, which I would ask you to go check it out there because especially if you want to watch the debacle that is the New York Jets, I just put out a piece on that. And RGR Football. Make sure you like, sub, hit the bell on all the platforms all the time because we're always free. We appreciate you locos, you everyday listeners. You're why we do this. And we'll give you that much more at 816-357-8781 on our text line. This is what it comes down to. This is a football game in the NFL. Anybody can win any Sunday. I fully subscribe to that notion. But this game is about the Kansas City Chiefs exercising their demons, letting themselves loose a little bit after the stress that has been an undefeated season until last week, and just really starting to get back on track and do Chiefs things. That's honestly, I think, the bottom line for this ball game. Am I oversimplifying it?
I don't think you're oversimplifying it, but I think they have to go out and they have to have a plan to beat this Panthers team. And while I think we both agree that this is a team that they should beat and they should beat handily, and it shouldn't be anything closer than a 2-score game, if not 3-score, the way the Chiefs have played so far this season doesn't really lend itself to that. So to me, they need to go out and they need to prove that they can, be efficient on offense. They need to, go out and score points on a regular basis. They need to get to a point where they're not doing 3-and-outs. I can't remember how many 3-and-outs they had against Buffalo, but it was more than they've had in probably two games combined this season in just one game against the Bills. And that was a severe problem. And it caused them to not have the ability to continue drives and to get points on the board. And you go back and you look at how they lost to the Bills. Patrick Mahomes had some bad plays. The offensive line had some bad plays. The defense had some bad plays. I mean, there's plenty of blame to go around. But this is a team that you should be able to go in and say, we can beat the Panthers, but you need to show up with a purpose, and you need to not be overlooking this game, because overlooking a team, regardless of who you're playing, is bad business in the NFL, because you can lose to any team on any given Sunday. And Kansas City needs to get back on track and win this game and make it a game where they win it handily.
Yeah, I agree. It is about that. And this is a team that's got a myriad of struggles. We'll talk about some of the matchups that are going to be important. But you take a look through their season. This team was only able to score 14 points against the Denver Broncos. They only put up 3 against the Chargers earlier in the season. So far, the AFC West has been kicking their rears. So I don't see any reason why that changes. Now, the last 2 weeks against the Saints and the Giants, despite their problems, they were able to muster 20 points. So it's somewhere in that, how much are you allowing a team like this to get on a roll? Chiefs, in my opinion, have to make a statement game that we can bury a team that we should beat without letting them hang around. Maybe it isn't a huge margin, like you said, but it's got to be one of those things that are like, hey, why is the score so close? Because the Chiefs dominated this team on the field. That's what we have to be saying for this to be the right outcome.
Yeah, and it all starts with what we've said all season, and it has to be a situation where Kansas City controls the ball the entire game. They need to play ball control offense. They need to be able to run the ball. They need to be able to move the ball down the field in small chunks, not necessarily huge plays, but just small, consistent chunks. But the other big thing is they have to take care of the ball. Patrick Mahomes can't turn the ball over, because this is how you lose to bad teams, is you give them turnovers. And if you give them turnovers, that's going to be a problem, and it's going to cause issues. And it's a way you could lose this game if you turn the ball over and you lose the turnover margin by 2 or 3 turnovers, it's easy to lose a game. Doesn't matter who you play.
Yeah, turnovers make bad teams look good. It's just that simple. And in terms of controlling the ball, you'd hope for some reinforcements there. This is going to be another Kareem Hunt game, I believe. Isaiah Pacheco's been practicing, as has Charles Omenihu. I'm still holding out hope, but what do you think about the chances for either of them to play?
I don't think either of them play this week. They're still both limited on Thursday as of right now when we're recording this. So I would imagine that they're both going to be out this game. It's possible, but the way I look at this is it's a short week next week. They have been limited in practice this week. I don't see a reason why they should go into a week of practice and be limited in any way, shape, or form and still play in the game. To me, get them ready to go for next week's game. And I know we're talking about the Panthers, but really the bigger news, and I haven't been on here since it came out, it sounds like Hollywood could be back at towards the end of December. That's also going to be a huge addition. Matt Derrick broke that out a couple days ago. If they can get him back with Pacheco, who we're just talking about right now, this offense looks a lot different going into December and into January. And you start talking about getting, a guy like DeAndre Hopkins more involved in the offense, getting Noah Gray even more acclimated in the offense, using a guy like Peyton Hendershot, like we talked about, the good things he's done since he's been here. If you get all those guys going in the right direction, that changes what they're going to do offensively. And then you add a guy like Hollywood Brown. Maybe you don't add him until about Christmas time, but that's a huge Christmas present to this Chiefs offense and would be a huge boon getting ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, and if you guys missed it, Matt did break that down here for the first time on Wednesday here on our show. And it's a 21-day opening for that window, so you never know exactly when it's going to be. But just the fact that we're able to talk about it now is a big relief. A relief, something that the Chiefs can enjoy that not necessarily the Panthers are going to. What are the matchups that they have to win? That's coming up next. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Take a moment and thank someone in your life as we're approaching the holidays. Somebody that you would like to hang out with or that you owe. My podcast partner here takes care of a lot of things on the back end and the editing, and I am appreciative of that. There's always people in your life that help you do what you need to do, and it's this time of year that it really sinks in. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try and maybe open up some of those thanks that you can give. It's entirely online. It's designed completely to be flexible and convenient for you and suited exactly to your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched to a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for any reason at no charge, whatever you're looking for. Get the gratitude to flow right now with BetterHelp. It's betterhelp.com/lockedon. You can go over there today and get 10% off of your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. And then this time of year, we start talking playoffs. We start talking about when you're going to get the seats that you want in the places that you want, and you make the most of it. There's super deals out there to be had on Chiefs' remaining regular season. Certainly, we'll be talking playoffs when we know the home situation. You can get started now, right now, on the super deals, the views from the seats, everything that you want in one place at Game Time. Curation makes it easy so that you can make sure that the sports, the concerts, the comedy, all kinds of things that you're looking for are all in one spot. It's easy. You can toggle on or off all the shows that there's no surprise fees at checkout. You can get everything that you want in one place for the lowest guaranteed price, or they'll give you 110% back of the difference. Makes life super simple. All you got to do is take the guesswork out of buying tickets by going to Game Time, download the app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL. You'll get $20 off of your first purchase. Terms do apply, but create the account, redeem the code. That's LOCKEDONNFL. And that's $20 right there. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Now, when it comes to matchups, it starts and stops with the quarterbacks. I certainly get that, and we love to talk about Patrick Mahomes, but this might be the most maligned quarterback in this league at this point who isn't named Daniel Jones. Bryce Young has had a rough go. He's been up, he's been down, he's been back, he's been over. His last ball game out, they were off last week, but his last ball game out, I think he produced 120 yards, if I'm reading correctly. I was not prepared for that. That was even worse than I had expected. And he's got some interesting targets. 126 yards. I don't want to cut him too short. This is a team that has added Xavier Legette of recent draft status. Jalen Coker, an undrafted guy that does make some waves. And they do have a big tight end target in Jatavian Sanders. So there's a couple of things out there. But long and short, it's been a rough road for Bryce Young. It's not going to get any easier. Last week, the left side of their offensive line was a sieve. You're going to get Chris Jones. You're going to get Mike Dana. You're going to get Usha. You're going to get a number of players over there. And I think the number one matchup for this team to win is the defensive line against that left side of the Panthers O-line. And that's a recipe for a big win. I think that's job number one.
You look at this team, and to me, job number one is going to make Bryce Young's life even worse, and that's stopping the run. That's stopping Chuba Hubbard, and that's stopping the rookie as well. If you can do that, if you can keep them to, 80, 85 yards on the ground between the two of them for the day, you're going to win this game. Because if you're doing that, you have to make it to where they have to pass. And I like Steve Spagnolo versus Bryce Young. I do think that that's a good matchup. I think the Chiefs can win that matchup. And I do think that, you look at this, and the great thing about it for Kansas City is their defense has been doing that all year. They've been stopping running backs. Hubbard is fantastic, though. He is just behind Kareem Hunt in efficiency when it comes to running the ball. So he's doing great this year. They will not have Miles Sanders in this game. I believe he's out this week from my understanding. So they're going to probably be bringing the rookie in from Texas, and I think that is going to be interesting to see how he plays. Looking forward to that, actually, just because it's always fun to see those guys get their first carries, even when they're going against your team. But you look at this matchup, if they make it a game where they have to rely on Bryce Young to try to beat this Chiefs defense, I like that matchup for Kansas City. Like you said, the wide receiver situation, they will have, I think, Adam Thielen back this game. But, they traded away some of their wide receivers at this point already. I mean, they've traded away some of their talent on offense. It's really going to be hard for them to continuously move the ball down the field. And with Kansas City, it goes back to what they've done so far this season, except for last week. Can they keep it to where it's not explosive plays? If the Panthers aren't getting explosive plays through the air, like most of the teams Kansas City's played this year, other than the Bills, the Chiefs defense are going to shut them down. I'm not going to say they're going to keep them out of the end zone, but they're going to shut them down, and I don't think they're going to score more than 14 to 17 points total. But that's what it comes down to. If you can stop the run and you try to make it to where Bryce Young is the one that has to try to beat you, that's not going to be a good situation for Carolina, because that's putting a lot of pressure on a young QB, and especially a young QB who's never faced off against Steve Spagnolo before, who usually eats young QBs for breakfast. That's just the reality of how his defenses go against most young QBs and rookie QBs. And I know he's not a rookie, but he's close enough.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Chuba did go off for 153 on, I think, 28 carries last week.
He had a great game.
A 5.5 average. So I agree. He is definitely the key to them being able to have any kind of consistency. So I think that's pretty good shape. On the opposite side, the must win for me is being able to have both Xavier Worthy catch passes and DeAndre Hopkins. What an idea. Maybe even Travis Kelce too. We've seen it be single threaded for a couple of weeks here, and I'm about over it. There's opportunities there. J.C. Horn is on the injury list. He's light practice all week, but he is practicing. Had a rough outing his last one, gave up like 55% completion percentage, didn't grade out very well. A guy that maybe the Chiefs were talking to before the trade deadline. We're talking about to the Panthers before the trade deadline. Definitely want to pick on their secondary, because this is a game where the outside wide receivers have a chance to get loose. This isn't a very disciplined secondary from what I've seen. And I do think this is something that, especially with play action, a little bit of relief and a little bit of like, hey, let's just go out and play our game. I do think the Chiefs passing game came back on track.
And I'll take the other part of the offense, and I'll say the running game is important in this one. And the reason that I'm looking in that direction is you look at they're missing Derek Brown. He's out. Shaq Thompson is out. Those are two of their biggest defenders, and it would be like missing a Chris Jones and Nick Bolton almost on this defense. That would just hamper what the Chiefs were able to do. So to me, if you can run the ball, if this offensive line can have the type of game that they have had in most of the games this season, and they can be the ones taking it to the other team, I think you're in a great position to win this game. Kareem Hunt, I think, will have his opportunities in this one, and will get probably close to, I don't know that he'll get to 100 yards rushing, but he may get to 100 yards from scrimmage when you throw in his passing, which is just about the same thing in my opinion. And I do think that when you look at beating this Panthers team, it would be great for them to put up 30 points. It'd be great for them to put up more than 30 points. All I really care about, though, is that they're consistent on offense. They move the ball consistently. They have, maybe only one or two drives where they have a 3 and out. If they can move the ball and get 30, 40 yards a drive, even if you're not scoring, that's how you play winning football. You flip the field position for one, but you get to a point where your offense is consistently moving the ball. The other thing, the big thing that does is it gives your defense time to rest, which they didn't do against Buffalo. And I think Buffalo outsnapped them by close to 20 snaps. That can't happen if you want to win in January and February. You cannot be outsnapped that bad on offense and think you're going to have a chance to win. You can get away with it in maybe games like this against the Panthers, but if you do that on a regular basis against good teams, you will lose. And I would say you'll lose against the Raiders if you do something similar to that, because I think the Raiders, while they're not a good team, if they outsnap you, they're going to get more opportunities on offense, and they could, all it takes is one or two plays, and they have some guys that can hurt Kansas City with the tight ends that they have.
There are some guys that can hurt Kansas City on all of these rosters, including the Panthers. Who are the X factors, and what's going to happen coming up next? Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers, you can bet just $5 and you get $150 back in bonus bets if you win right now. FanDuel Sportsbook, the app, gives you everything that you need to get bets in place for the NFL all in one place. So when you got a hunch in the middle of the game, you want to check out the latest stats, you live by that play-by-play, you can do that and much more in the same page right where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com today and join. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 and official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Make sure that you hit the bell, and check us out on the text line at 816-357-8781. You can find Chris's work over at KC Chiefs Corner. You can find mine at NFL33.com and RGRfootball.com. I always like to focus on what the opponent's defense is going to try to do to you. Normally, I would say there's a couple guys to watch for that are Jadeveon Clowney and DJ Wanham. Both those guys have missed practice this week and been light the rest of the time. So I think that they have to be the X factors, because right now, I don't know if you can count on them to produce. If they're able to snap out of it, cortisone goes a long way. They're able to jump in there. They could be the X factor that puts a flaw, especially up against the left tackle in this ballgame, into what the Chiefs are trying to do. So be aware for them. Those two guys are definitely X factors.
Man, Clowney is not going to be a guy that you want to go up against on a regular basis. He is a little bit older, and obviously he is not the same player he once was, but he still can't get after the quarterback, and that's something that you don't like to be going up against. I do wonder how that's going to play out with Morris. I think he played a little bit better last week than I expected him to. So the question is can they continue to get better? This offensive line needs to give Mahomes a clean game. I don't remember how many sacks they gave up against Buffalo, but it was way too many. It was at least 4, if not 5. They need to have a game where I don't care if he gets sacked once or twice maybe, but he can't be getting hit every other play. And it seemed like he was getting hit just about every other play against Buffalo. They need to do better. They need to step up. And to me, when you start looking at X factors, you start talking about the offensive line, because to me, if you can get those 3 guys, and Joe Thuney and Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, to have clean games, you give Mahomes a pocket to step up in. And the secondary isn't something that Kansas City's their passing offense should be able to pick apart. To me, this is a game that Xavier Worthy should have 50, 60 yards. DeAndre Hopkins should have 50, 60 yards. Travis Kelce should have 50, 60 yards. And you get the other guys involved as you see fit, whether it's Noah Gray or Hendershot or Hardman or Watson or whoever else, Samaje Perine or Hunt. It doesn't really matter. But you need to have a clean game from the offensive line. Give Mahomes, 3 seconds to get the ball out. He needs to be on time, and he needs to be locked in this game. He didn't start the game last week against Buffalo locked in. And while I'm not going to say that's the reason they lost, if he doesn't throw that pick on the first play, on the second play of the game, his first pass, I don't know that Buffalo wins that game as easily as they did. I think it comes down to a last second situation where Mahomes is really trying to go for the win at the end versus just trying to get to a point where it's not a 2-score game anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you. On the other side of the ball, the guy that I'm going to watch out for is Xavier Legette. The big-bodied guys have given the Chiefs a little bit of trouble of late with Najee Johnson out there along with Trent McDuffie. Trent can handle it and work around it, but he still has a disadvantage against the big-bodied, strong guys. And Legette can leap as well. I don't want to forget that or leave that out. So if I'm their passing game coordinator, I'm looking to get him in the action right away. So look for McDuffie to be on him. Maybe we see Joshua Williams. We'll have to see how they line up in order to take away the big guy.
Man, Legette is going to be is a little bit of a problem when you start talking about his size and what he can do on the football field. But I do think that Kansas City is going to have a good plan in place for taking on this offense. When I look at this, and really my X factor is going to go back to Xavier Worthy. I know I've already talked about the offensive line, but Xavier Worthy is the X factor, and he's the X factor because until he and Mahomes get on the same page when it comes down to long balls, they're going to struggle offensively. They have to hit those, and they have to take 2 or 3 shots a game. Like you watch the Buffalo game, yes, he had that one long ball that he caught, and then he went back to him, had a second long ball that was incomplete because Xavier stepped out of bounds, and then didn't go back to him the rest of the game. And that second one was in the second quarter. You cannot get away from a guy like that. You need to keep him involved in the offense and on a regular basis. And the same kind of thing goes for DeAndre Hopkins. Get him more involved in this offense. Get him, touches on the first drive. I understand last week you didn't have a chance because your first pass was an interception. I understand that. But get DeAndre Hopkins involved in the first drive of the game. Get him a touch. It doesn't have to be something where he gets 20 yards. Just get him a touch. Get him involved in the offense. Get Mahomes settled in to a game plan and attack this Panthers defense. Because if you do that and you can get up to where you're up 2 or 3 scores, then maybe you just run the ball and you kind of run it out and you don't worry about them coming back at the very end and making it closer than it really should have been. At that point, I don't care. But you need to make sure that they know that you can take it to them, and you need to be an offense that's taking it to them early in this game and try to score as many points as you can before halftime.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they do get off to a fast start. That's the prescription. Run your script. The first 15 should be a distinct advantage. In the end, I think that they're able to run their offense. They're able to get guys involved. I think Hunt has a good day out. And I actually think one of the pass rushers steps up. It might be Uche. I'm not sure. I'm looking for somebody to take the lead, and I think somebody will. I don't think it's much of a contest, and especially that first half lead will play the part. I think the Chiefs win going away 28-17.
Yeah, I'm not going to go 28-17. I'm going to go 27-17. I think Kansas City has the ability to make this an even further away game, even up to a 3-score game, if not more. But the question becomes, is Andy Reid going to do that? Because in the past he hasn't, and that's bitten him in the behind at times. I don't expect that that's going to be an issue in this game, but Kansas City needs to come out strong. They need to score 14 points at least before half, and they need to stick with what's working for you. That was the other thing that never made sense to me against the Bills. They had those big plays to Xavier Worthy. Worthy was the entire drive basically going down and scoring a touchdown, and then they don't go back to him at all. Stick with what's working for you. Continue feeding your guys. Feed who is having a hot hand that day. Win this one going away, and then get ready for a little bit of extra rest and to take on, or a little bit less rest than you normally get to take on the Raiders on the day after Thanksgiving.
Going to be a tight week, folks. Hope that you are ready for it. We certainly are. We want to make sure that you have everything that you need. So we're going to give you a live post game like we do every single week. So be prepared for it as we all get prepared for the holiday coming. We'll have content for you all week long, just like we always do. Don't you fret. Thank you for being here with us today. Make sure that you check out all the outlets, including KC Chiefs Corner and NFL33.com and RGR Football. We'll be back with you post game live after the Panthers. Thanks for listening today, and we'll talk to you then.